Hey, what's up? This is Scott with Level Up Tutorials, and today we're going to show you how you can add things to your collection using a form. So it's going to be your classic, here's a form, you enter your data, hit submit, and that information is not only going to hit and save into your database, but it's also going to be displaying live on your site without you having to do anything extra. So it's one of the really cool things that Meteor does by sort of combining aspects of the front end and back end together. You don't have to worry about telling the front end of the site to redisplay the content once something's been added. The whole system just sort of knows. So we're going to get into that right now by adding content to our collections. So in the last video, we created our collection and we added items to our collection using the Mongo interface via command line. And that's not super fun, and that's not how you'd ever really want to use your application. So let's think about how we can go ahead and start adding a form on our page that can actually add new resolutions itself. So if we come to our page, you'll see we really just have a resolution name. And when we created new resolutions, we gave it a date of new date, and that was just part of the Mongo insert line that we wrote. So we really don't need a whole lot more here on our HTML page if we come there. So let's go ahead and add a form on our HTML page, and we're going to do it inside of the body here. And I'm actually going to do a couple of things first because we really just had this UL. We had that all before. So let's go ahead and add a container. So I'm going to add a div with the class of container. And let's indent these unordered list. Okay, and now we're going to add a header, and inside of our header is going to contain an H1. And let's just put in the title monthly resolutions. Okay, now this isn't anything really necessarily have to do with the form. It's just going to, once I pass you along the CSS, which I actually should have available to download at the in the description of this video. That way yours can look just like mine. So we have this H1 here, and also inside of here we're going to put a form. So let's just type a normal form. Okay. Now for the action, we're not going to have anything. We're just going to leave this as a form. However, we are going to give this a class, and it's going to have a class of new-resolution. And so here we have our form with a class of new resolution. Now let's go ahead and add our first input field. So we're going to say input, and the type is going to be text, and the name is going to be equal to title. So if you remember, we had this field title, so our input field is going to have the same name as that, what we want this to be saved as. So we could say name title. Now let's go ahead and add a placeholder, and that placeholder is just going to be equal to a new resolution. Okay, and let's go ahead and add a select field. Now let's go ahead and add a submit button. So we can say input, and the type is going to be submit. The value is going to be equal to submit. Okay, and now we and I've actually created a bunch of CSS already that I'm going to be making available. I'll leave in the description of the video, so you can just simply paste this into your project into resolutions.css. That way, if you're following along, your project will look like mine, and it won't be the sort of super ugly blank no styles. Okay, so we now have this type of text, this input field, and all this stuff here. Let's go ahead and check out our page. Okay, so it's looking much better here. We have this input field, a new resolution, we have a submit button, and we have our two previous resolutions. So now let's go ahead and write our first event for this template. So let's come to our JavaScript, and this is resolutions.js. Now below this template.body.helpers, but inside of the Meteor is client, we're going to add something new that's going to be template.body.events. Now this is basically how you call any kind of event in your project. So we're going to finish it up with parentheses, and then brackets, just like we had before, and you can end it up with a semicolon. Now it's important to note that if the thing that we were trying to have an event on was inside of this template, this resolution template, we would actually be having to say template.resolution.events. Now this body is only here because we're not inside of a template with a name, we're inside of just our standard body tag. Okay, so we have template.body.events. Now, here's what we're going to be looking for. It's going to be a JavaScript object just like this resolutions up here was an object. However, the key for the object is going to be a string which contains the event itself, which is going to be a submit event, and then we're going to space, and then the second part of the string is going to be which element we're going to be looking for this event on. So we're going to say period new hyphen resolution. Because forms have submit events, it's going to be looking at this new resolution form, and when there's a submit event, it's going to trigger the function that we're about to write. If you wanted this to be a click event or something like that, this submit would simply be click instead of submit. Okay, so now we're going to have a colon, and then we're going to write function, and then we're going to pass an argument into this function, and that's event. And then we're going to finish it up with brackets, and this is our function here. Now this event contains a lot of stuff. It contains pretty much any information you want about this particular submit event, and that includes all of the form data. So to get the title out of this form, all we have to say is var title, just to set it to a variable so we can do whatever we'd like with it, is equal to event.target. So this is what the target event is, which would be the new resolutions form. And then we're going to get the field, which was title, by the name of the input field. And then we're going to get period value, which is the actual value of the field. Now, we're going to want to create a new resolution. So before, when we had our resolutions here, we were able to access them with a resolutions.find. Now there's another method on this resolutions object here that we can say resolutions.insert. Now this is going to add a record to our database. So if we have parentheses and then brackets here, just like this, wrap it up with a semicolon, we can go ahead and fill out this object. So for instance, we had the title of our object is going to be colon equal to title, which is the new variable we just created. So the resolutions.title is going to be equal to this title right here that we just created. Now let's actually add a created at date as well. So we can say created at, and I have this in camel case, and then colon here. We can say new date. And so we're getting a new date using the date function. That's simply just going to grab the time at which this resolution was created. Now, this is all we have to do. This resolutions.insert is going to not only save this resolution to our database, but it's also going to update our view. It's really cool, okay? So actually, there are some more things we want to do. We want to clear the form. So to clear the form, we can say event.target.title.value, which is the form input that we had. We can just set that equal to a blank string. And we also want to say return false. Because what's going to happen if we don't have this return false is that the page is going to do a refresh because of the submit event. Okay, so all in all, it's really not bad. We're grabbing the value, we're saving that value to a new resolution, we are eliminating that previous value from the field, and then we're making sure the page doesn't refresh. So all of this combined inside of this template.bodyEvents should lead to us to having a successfully working resolutions form. So a new resolution would be to read 10 books. And now I can either hit enter or submit, and instantly it's at the end of the line. Now, how would you do things like change the order of these lists and stuff like that? Well, we're going to get into that more when we talk about the Blaze view systems. Now, Meteor is broken up into several separate projects, such as Spacebars, which is a version of Handlebars that handles these loops like here. We have things like Blaze, which is giving us the ability to interact with the front end of the website, and all sorts of other components, which we'll talk more about when it becomes more important. But in a video, I'm going to discuss a bit more about what you can do inside of this code here, not only finding and doing things like that, but with the events and everything that goes on there. Cool, so we now have a working form. It's adding things to our collection. In the next video, we're going to give the user the ability to delete records, as well as check them off, like a check mark that's going to set them to being done, which is effectively the checklist style of application where you can say, hey, I did this resolution already. Cool. So as always, this is Scott with Level Up Tutorials. If you have any questions or comments, leave a comment in the video or hit us up at Twitter or Facebook at Level Up Tuts. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.